Hi, welcome to Untitled New channel. Tonight I am feeding my dog. He's getting rice and kibble all over the place, and I'm having a tea. So our topic is about the helmet of salvation, getting an embodied prefrontal cortex, which is these guys right in the front lobes. So you have your left prefrontal cortex and you have your right prefrontal cortex, and they're each responsible for your executive functioning. So like your brain CEO. In the Bible, Ephesians 6:17 tells us to put on the helmet of salvation. So this would be your helmet of salvation. Now, each one is going to play a little bit of a different role, but altogether this functions as your helmet of salvation. So a helmet protects the head, the brain, and the thoughts from outside attacks. So the external, what's out here, so it's going to protect your head. In brain science, your spiritual helmet is your prefrontal cortex. This is the front part of your brain that handles logic, self-control, and the ability to make or uphold boundaries. So when you are targeted by bullies, abusers, dark triadic, or narcissistic people, your brain goes offline like a computer connection in a fear panic loop. So kind of like the serial parrot who wants you to Fruit Loop your prefrontal cortex rather than use its logic to just not follow sentiment mind or emotion mind toward the fruit. You have to go offline to do the Fruit Loop of the helmet. So we're not going to get Fruit Looped by bullies and predators anymore. How do we do that? Is by getting an embodied prefrontal cortex. So first, most people are blind. Our third eye, our pineal gland is either darkened or offline as well, because these guys are offline and we're not enlightened up here. We are stuck in a sleeping sort of that childhood freeze state or disassociated state. You haven't awakened to the higher minds, and these are certainly not strong enough, and there's not a high connection for them to be online. So by getting embodied, you're going to fill them up. You're going to turn them on full blast. You're going to, get the engine going there. So we must physically train our brain to snap out of the fear mode, the darkness mode, the sleeping mode, and lock into logic, prefrontal cortex and your logic, and build that protective shield. So this is online and it's protective of your entire physiology and your physical vessel. Your natural boundary and present state of being is online because your brain's registering it, and you're going to protect it by turning this on and training the brain that predators cannot break through your protective shield. So, but if you're coming from the four abuses, the mental, the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, you already know about the glitch where we freeze and over reveal everything to abusers or to toxic people. And it is a glitch because we don't like it. That's a glitch in our own matrix. Let me see how he's doing. Oh, everywhere. Apostle Paul described the ultimate mental loop in Romans 7:15. For what I am doing, I do not understand. For what I will do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. So when a toxic person panics or alarms our 4F trauma responses, the amygdala security system, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze turns on. The brain undergoes an amygdala hijack. And your emotion mind or panic brain, so your right prefrontal cortex knocks over the logic center of the helmet and it goes off. So, doing whatever he would like at this moment, we're busy. Hi, Mo. So it knocks off and it goes, your left prefrontal cortex goes offline. So this is the glitchy loop that you are already aware of. Your emotion brain and your subconscious conditioning mistakenly thinks that if I just keep talking or over-explaining my feelings or sharing my ideas, plans, or secrets, this person will realize to stop hurting me and will understand me. The reality, though, is that this little doozy thought process is the trauma response, the 4F system, fawning. So this is the amygdala in full blast. Fawning over the person to tell them more, and let me just, oh, it's just this, and I got this at this place, and you know, the fawning, like, oh, how cute, in kind of way. Predators fiend these responses from the right side of the prefrontal cortex. So the left side is knocked offline and the amygdala is driving the right side of the prefrontal cortex. So in essence, you have a half of a helmet going on here. They want the predators to verbally spar your helmet of salvation. So kind of like the martial arts, the sparring and the jabbing until you're offline. Okay, have a seat. Go have a seat. Go. They want to verbally spar your helmet of salvation or your left side of your prefrontal cortex until it goes offline, shrinks, is pythoned, or intimidated in terror or deep fear. That's their goal, so that they can then control you because, you know, that the lights are off, nobody's home, and the predators are all about that kind of thing. The predators and abusers use emotion, mind, honesty, and emotional cortex, empathy as sparring targets to keep tapping away at your helmet within. He realized he has more food all over the place over there. This could be constantly putting your hands near your face when they're speaking to you. So kind of, look at this. Having you read, smell, listen to, or taste something like food or their choice of food. It could be constant minimizing your physical boundaries, your body or choices, gaslighting your logic, or controlling every detail you normally need autonomy or space for. There's also childhood forced eye contact and sensory overload technique trap. Most women get stuck in this eye movement loop because of childhood trauma by an abuser. So if an abuser ever yelled or commanded, "Look at me when I'm talking to you," your brain was rewired to associate eye contact with extreme danger of the person that you're looking at, the scary person, because usually you're very small and they're very big. As an adult, predators will use aggressive body language to activate that unhealed childhood fear and reopen that wound. So that's controlled by the amygdala. You're in freeze mode and you're fighting. So you perceived fear of being stared at, monitored, looked at, or somebody random comes and talks to you and they want to be in your space with all this look, see me, when, you know, and your brain is locked on the deer in the headlights. Your amygdala is like, okay, we're not doing this, but you're freezing. You're in trauma response and you've gone offline. So they use prefrontal cortex boundary tactics. and they get way too close, point in your face. Sometimes it's really aggressive, like when they're explaining that, like if we're talking like this and trying to tell you a point, they do that. Terrible. Aggressively shoving things into your space, demanding you look or get a heaviness or fear. You get a heaviness or fear from it. Like if you just decided to buy only new clothes at some point, you're changing your life and your wardrobe and your closet, and somebody you're talking to gives you, not only picks up used items, but a truckload of used items, and dumps it off to you. Your emotion mind, so your right side, normally gagas over the associated feelings of fawning, feels like your spirit is buried under a bunch of clutter, but you're unable to go online and put your boundary up, so you're stuck in this loop. Your amygdala and your right cortex is looping, and they do this thing when, oh, crazy, no, it's a loop and it's a trauma response and you're adding to it, so don't. The whole goal is that they're trying to blast our emotion brain with sensory overload, or insult our logic cortex with so much repetition, the sparring, like, backhanding you, or annoying you, or threatening intimidation, that the emotion and sensory cortex overloads. It floods. And, it floods. And you're forced, despite your crawling gut and your solar plexus and your froggy knot of, you're forced to submit, because you've gone offline and that emotion is just too powerful it takes a few minutes to reconnect. And you hand over your logical cortex, so the left side, the beans and the data, to the abuser, who's just pressured you, overloaded you, sensory, not deprivation, but it could be, but too much, and you've gone offline and you're like, okay, let me just explain, like, let me just tell you what's going on, when really if you were online, you're like, no, I'm not going to tell anybody that. Okay, so the solution for talking and revealing too much, over-fawning, over-functioning, like that Valley Girl shopping, like you go shopping and, oh, I like this, that's so cute, I want to buy that, and like it just becomes an disassociated state, and the solution is to activate the left brain for safety once again, bring it back online if it's off, or if it's being tormented with mental anguish. So that would be the solution anytime you're offline. But depending how traumatic the amygdala pops on due to outside sensory overload or trigger, or else we could ourselves be triggered by something that's already looping us, would be to be turned back online. So having some grounding techniques and mental focus techniques ready and available would help get back online. So our brain has two prefrontal cortex sides that handle our stress differently, and each in two separate victim or victor fashions. The right PFC does the 4F, panic and escaping or avoiding. It will scan thousands of pixels a second for any signs of danger in our world and flood with emotion if it perceives too much of that, in cahoots with the amygdala, the security system. So it usually is conditioned to be angry or fearful. That's been our go-to reactions instead of responses to our childhood traumatic upbringings. So it's the emotional brain, yes, but it has more anger, automatic autopilot responses, and or panic or fear. and it triggers the diabolic urge to over-explain, to keep the peace with the predator or the abuser or the unmindful person. So the left PFC does the logic and structure that we live by, that we need to live by as empathic, narcissistic abuse survivors. We have not had a lot of structure with being able to maintain our boundaries, so that we need structure of safety, structure of emotional regulation, and even just functioning regulation to maintain a constant online awareness to know that we're safe. So it processes facts. The left side makes lists and holds to strict boundaries. So to activate the true protection of the helmet of salvation. So to activate this, the true protection, and we're talking about the protection of the left side, where we're in charge. I mean, it's nice to call, an authority figure like the Amygdala or your security guard, if you're fortunate enough to have that. But generally you don't want to escalate, so you want to be, aware of your own structure and peace, and be able to be cognizant and not in a vulnerable position to have your 4F system activated and take you offline. So to activate the true protection of the helmet of salvation, you must force your prefrontal cortex back online. You must force it. If you're going off, or if you know you're gone off in that urge, like, I know I should not do this, but then you go and do it, we go and do it anyway. We have to have a technique, or there will be nothing to stop emotion, stop a force once in motion from its course. In this case, an emotional reactionary course of probably volatile and self-destruction and defeative behavior that we might not like the outcomes of. So we do this by turning a scary emotional situation into a cold, logical, legal secretary, mathematical problem situation. So we're going to act like a secretary, a legal secretary, because this is the law. This is the law of God, our helmet of salvation. That's like legal hardware up here, and we have to handle it legally in the court of God. So when dealing with text, emails, or in-person attacks, you can use 3 legal secretary rules to reset your left PFC brain helmet to back online status that you perceive and you intuitively know and you feel confident with. So as a legal secretary in charge of your heavenly court's helmet of salvation, or prefrontal cortex boundary system, you can first do a time delay. Nobody just walks into a lawyer's office without an appointment, without a proper retainer or consultation fee paid first. As a wise legal secretary of this helmet, you're going to wait 20 minutes to embody your left PFC back into an online state. Now you can do this in practice before to see how long you feel it takes to turn online from an emotional trigger, and then you'll generally know how much time you need to be able to quickly bounce back. And so you're going to embody your left PFC to an online state before responding to a toxic or sensory overloaded text or email. So this allows the hormones to drop, so logic can reboot, the car can warm up and fire again. The 80-20 rule of helmet of salvation law. Never look abuser Medusa directly into their pupils, or your left PFC helmet turns to useless stone. Trauma response, eyeball ping-ponging, looking back and forth at the person's eyes, even if it's not an abuser, but your brain's going off like, I don't want to talk to this person, but you can't stop. They're so magnetic, and you're looking like, or you're just staring like you frozen. You can't look away. You can't go somewhere, and your eyes are transfixed. in your amygdala 4F response. So trauma response eyeball ping-ponging and gaze triggers your panic PFC brain. So it triggers your panic brain. So your right emotional brain, you're going to panic internally. Look at, nostrils or past their shoulder back there instead of right at their eyes, or at their hairline instead of like they tell you look here. Just look somewhere that reminds your mind to stay on, like, I know I'm looking at a hairline or something. You're not going to see all that. This stuff to get you quickly trained on noticing what it's like. You will also use strict legal secretary business hours information dieting. So don't give fatted facts. Keep messages brief. Extra info costs more. Retainer. And use an anti-Fruit Loop BIF system. So BIF your helmet up, keeping your emotional brain exhalations brief as a menu option. Informative as a cartography map. So there's not much on there. You really have to figure it out. It's not obvious. And minimal facts only. And firm as fog. So it's a mental clarity that they will be in fog, but you're firm. They're like, huh? Be firm as fog. You will lastly need some structural commandeering from your Left PFC helmet. When an abuser invades your space, your emotion mind wants to beg or argue, why are you talking to me like this? Can't you stop? Instead, you use a structured, boundaried prefrontal cortex. Don't fawn with please, apologies, or explanations. Legal secretaries don't apologize for their lawyer's absence and explain where they are or why. They're speaking in flat, structured, monotone, almost robotic voice. Hopefully you get a nice one, but if you need one. And they're not always for bad reasons. When an abuser or narcissist gets too close or points, you defend your left prefrontal cortex and speak from it. So you're speaking from this. You're not speaking from Medusa eyeballing or from right panic, emotional anger, or defensiveness. You defend your left prefrontal cortex. So this is what you're defending. This is what your boundaries are for, is to defend this to stay online. And it's not cheap to have it go offline. It costs you everything. So step back. Move your hand. These are your boundaries. Step back. Move your hand away from my face. Monotonic. That was a little bit over. When they shove something at you to look, to smell, or taste, do you want this? Look at this tea right there. Do you see it? Set that down. I'm not looking at it right now. If someone toxically yells or instigates or accuses you, a quiet Nicolas Cage, lower your volume. Speak normally or I will leave. Nicolas Cage is pretty monotone. If they keep pushing your boundaries and sensory overload, where your brain is repeating, I don't want this, your bells and whistles are going off in the amygdala, your monotone left PFC says this conversation is over, this discussion is over. And you literally say that, but not so emotional. The monotone voice takes practice. So if they do not immediately obey the helmet's boundary to keep you online, you don't have to tell them, I need to stay online. This is how I function, this side of my brain. They're going to be like, that's treats for a wolf. Like, they're not going to do it. If they don't immediately obey, pivot 45 degrees on your feet away from them and walk out of the area. So you're not going to turn and run because that fight and flight will stop you. You will be froze. And you're not going to trigger them, their anger. And you're not going to freeze with the Medusa, but you're just going to turn this eyes for safety, this brain online away a little bit, 45 degrees. And your prefrontal cortex power on is non-negotiable. So most narcissistic abuse survivors have chronically lived offline their whole lives. So they find they have memory difficulties. Since no one teaches NPD survivors prefrontal cortex strengthening and reactivation, most women just conclude their memory is broken. But what is really happening is it's just been offline.